Avocation. Under a darkling rainbow, cast up to the night sky by intermittent city lights, tinged gray by the smog of thoughts, of progress, of decay. Walking out the front gates, I kept my gaze down to the sidewalk, knowing that it wouldn't tell me where to go, knowing that if I followed it, it would take me somewhere, knowing that the future does its own thing, but only if you went there, knowing that the present presents nothing to those who wallow in it. All I knew there at the gates was what was behind me, and the past had nothing to offer. So I followed the sidewalk for 2 weeks, burning up all the money nobody knew I had, money that was weighing me down and burning me up, buying useless shit I'd never see again, giving it to useless people I'd never meet again, trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible without knowing I was, without knowing why, without understanding that too much freedom squeezed out of me every sense of purpose, the very reason I had left those gates behind. And now, 2 weeks later, I hadn't made it half a block away, and I'm just coming to, and I'm thinking, I need something to hate. I need to get back to work. And I know I don't want to, and I know that's good. I know that's because I hate it. I know that when we hate a thing properly, we will run at it or run away from it. And that's better than standing half a block away from it with money in my pocket. 2 weeks was nearly enough time to hate myself properly. It was time to get something done. Maybe start by getting in a fight. Saturday, 3 January 15, 1930 hours. It didn't work. The closest I came was with a tattooed skank bitch at the jukebox who expected her boyfriend to get up and do the fighting. He was a tattooed little man dressing tough with a shaved head. If there's anything I know these days, that the tattoos are cheap if one isn't paying one's own bills, and a shaved head purveys little more than a fear of looking like anything more than anyone else. Without me knowing she was sitting there waiting, she said, "If you're gonna take any longer, you need to get out of the way so I can play my songs." I turned around to see the diseased little crank fiend sitting there. I don't normally try to be rude, but since you seem to make it a habit, I don't mind telling you that the line starts there, and pointed to where she was sitting. She shot a look down the bar at her useless little prick. I followed it, and as I wondered if his tattoos meant anything at all, his tough kid stance eroded into a looking around, do I know you? I don't know her. Is it something I did type of thing. I guess he expected more respect from strangers. He wasn't getting it, and I wasn't getting what I went out for. I wasn't going to fight her. She'd probably just bite, and I didn't have time for shots. I was there to get loaded, and I didn't even have time for that. I lollygagged with my song, had a couple more drinks and left. Another fruitless night for destruction, just to be proven by my walk home. Coming up on the Walgreens building, I saw a man huddled, looking miserable and cold. I still had money, which means I had cigarettes. Before he could bother me, I had them out saying, "Here you go, man." He looked around confused, taking one, saying nothing until the man came barreling around the corner. Big man come barreling around the corner. I was already putting my pack away, and this dude was saying, "No, Jim, he's a good guy, he's a good person, Jim." And I was just looking at Jim as he stopped coming, veered around me and backed away. Maybe had I acted scared and stepped back a bit, I'd have gotten to fight. But that would have been unfair. Would have been cheating. These were amateurs. These were not ready for a mark that was ready for them. It was becoming clear that if all I was looking for was trouble, maybe I needed to get back to Hunters Point or Richmond, maybe try someplace like the Detroit area. It was becoming clear. But who could say that's what I was really looking for? I was just out for the night, open to possibilities. Maybe that the people I met had no other purpose than breathing hard was enough for me to leave it alone. All the while that he walked, he had Christ above his head. Not the Lamb on the Mount, not the Christ on the cross, but the crying lion in Gethsemane asking, "What the hell am I supposed to do? What the fuck do they want from me? What do they want from me?" The second law of thermodynamics applied to a social situation. Entropy. They will corrupt everything I've ever put forth in my teachings anyway. The keys to the gates of heaven will not turn for any man who twists the words of the Son of Man. Everything comes apart at the center. Yates, Cates, the beast crouches in the east. They want it, I'll give it to them, but they're not gonna like it when I do. The next night I went out, I'd already been drinking. That should go without saying, but I don't want anyone to pretend I was in my right mind. That's not where I am when I'm sober anyway. Even while completely sober, I'd be hard-pressed to find that place. I went down to the littered creek next to the Walgreens there and was standing in the dark with my dick out, pissing in the meandering water, something that's always felt comforting, something natural. I heard a slight rustle and then the beast bursting out of the bushes behind me. Turning, he was almost on me, one arm reaching, the other in the air. I took him down with a leg sweep, catching the back of his neck as he went, helping his head down on a rock above the shallow water. A pop. A coconut on a rock. He wasn't moving. I wanted to finish my piss on him, but I didn't want him to have my DNA. I'd relieved myself enough to make it to the next bar. I saw the knife as I zipped. It was lying next to his open hand in the water where I'd knocked his ass cold. I figured I might as well let him keep it. And when I turned him over, I was delighted to see it was Jim from the night before. She of the gates had told me I shouldn't go walking downtown drunk, that it was dangerous, that people get stabbed. I don't feel small for admitting that she was right. After I was finished, I rinsed my hands and wrists on the downstream side of them. There was very little spray and I was able to stay clear of most of it. I had to pick a different bar than the one I was almost at. Too close. A change of plans? Not really. Really, it was as close as I'd come to having a plan in years. I could go to Louis. It was further away on a diagonal. I cut north a few blocks and made my way through the north side, walking like I had a purpose. Something I've found, when walking like you've got a purpose, few people will bother you. It's almost as if they don't want to see you. For being such a reputably dangerous part of town, the north side can be very safe, very quiet. And it was. I passed a parked police car, but it was running and there was no one in it. At Louis, I washed with soap. I was pleased at how clean I was able to keep myself. Clean as I ever am. Fact is, looking at myself in the mirror, I felt a weight had fallen from my shoulders. I seemed to stand straighter. I saw purity in my eyes. Out in the bar, I made it a point to avoid direct eye contact with anybody. People are attracted to purity, and when people are attracted to you, they remember you. All I've ever wanted to do is be forgotten, because I hurt people. Over a shot and 2 beers, I watched all the clusters enjoying each other's company, saw that nobody saw me. A person alone can sink into oneself and become invisible. Taking pretty much the same way home, I saw the police car still doing nothing. So I set it to fire and kept walking. Lao Tzu, an old Chinese philosopher, said a clean conscience is the best pillow. Did I have any trouble sleeping that night? No, I slept like any drunk. Although my bedding showed evidence of my nocturnal thrashing, I remember none of it. I've always screamed and thrashed in my sleep. The news had a small bit about a known vagrant that had been found cut from scrotum to sternum, disemboweled, with a head wound, a knife through his trachea sideways. It takes the arteries on both sides. That's the way I saw them do the dinner goats in the nether regions of China. As far as the disembowelment goes, I just cut him open. Raccoons must have pulled his guts out. I'm not that sick. I would have needed him awake for something like that, and I wasn't angry. The burned up car was the bigger story of the two. Cops lost their jobs over it. Turns out, they were someplace they shouldn't have been. Doing something they shouldn't have been doing. What a neat and tidy evening. I was getting back to work and had a hobby, and nobody was bothering me. Just the opposite. People were making me happy for the first time in a good while. I had happened upon a quiet purpose with a serene philosophy. Fuck with the elements that are dragging us down. Now, I have friends all over the place, and I'd go see them from time to time. And from town to town, a violent vagrant would be put down and a dirty cop's car would be burned up. I'm sure there must have been some connection being made, but it wasn't being broadcast. Whatever filth those dirty cops were up to their elbows in covered up the stink of violent vagrants found in vacant lots, hobo jungles, dirty riverbeds, and alleys of the cities across the country, across the years. Friends and I would joke and make cracks about the odds, about my impeccable timing for being on vacation someplace when something happened. But I've always had a knack for being places at weird moments in history. Few of my friends know each other to make any strong case. Those that may have made the connection know me well enough to understand that I'm not a dangerous guy, generally. Besides that, they like me. Turns out I'm a likable guy. Don't ask me why. There's probably no formula for that sort of thing. It seems these days we hear about less dirty cops and fewer innocent victims. Don't ask me about anything I don't talk about. There's a pretty good chance I don't understand. I'm just here smoking cigarettes and drinking beer on the roof of a rented house half a block away from the gates I walked out so long ago. And I feel good enough to take a vacation. Martin Allegan. There's that. This hat was given to me when I was working on Avalanche Bay Water Park in Boyne Falls. I was part of the people that built it. I was back in Gaylord at the time, and I took a job on that. And they gave me this hat because the one I had already, you can only get hit in the head with one I-beam before you have to replace your hard hat. They say it loses some of its integrity. And I had a 1/4-inch divot, and the bill was broken, and that I-beam just, if I had this thing on backwards like these guys like to do, hey, yeah, I'm cool, that beam would have taken my nose clean off. But all it did was broke the bill and stuck a piece of plastic right in my nose. I had black eyes, I was bleeding. They had a safety meeting about me. Dwayne Smolars, he was working with a different part of the crew. He was with the excavators. He saw me, we'd see each other on the job every once in a while, and he said, looked at me, he says, Jesus, Judas, what'd you do? Get in a bar fight? I was all black-eyed, and I'm just like, and I said, no. I got hit in the head with an I-beam the other day. It fell and landed on my head. Ooh, flash of light went through my head, but I never trusted a hard hat. I never thought it would even keep you safe from a rivet, but they work. Friday the 13th, 2004, I suppose. But he said, that was you? I said, of course it was. He said, we had to have a safety meeting about that. And it's just like that thing with Gary Busey, when the company has a safety video about you, it happened. These are things I don't plan. But so they gave me a new hard hat. My dad's mad because I was using his, and I broke it. I'm always breaking helmets. Second jump, I broke all the webbing out of my helmet. They didn't know it till the next time. I didn't want to tell anybody. It was just sitting on my head. I called into work today. I'm dead and dying. I'm sick. When I get sick, it's not very often, but when I get sick, I'm dead and dying. I get laid out. Whatever it is trying to kill me means it. And so I just want to say, don't miss me while I'm gone, when I'm gone. Don't miss me when I'm gone. Miss me while I'm here.